fashion actually affects all areas. So you can look at resources depletion, climate change, animal suffering, water pollution, food insecurity, air pollution, habitat destruction, and human rights abuses, all of the things that I highlighted earlier. So they say that it's the second most polluting industry, but when I've done research, I think it looks to be around the 8th most polluting. Fashion is responsible for 10% of carbon emissions, 10 to 20% of pesticide use. The washing and processing causes 1/5 of industrial water pollution. I believe cotton causes and other materials cause around 20%. It accounts for 20 to 35% of microplastic flows into the ocean. And let's not forget about the plastic packaging floating around. Around 17% of forests lost due to cattle ranching and extraction of fossil fuels for synthetic fibers, as well as the impact on global warming and biodiversity loss. This is a plant in Cambodia from the Yanfang group called Agile Knit, and they actually have a government tax incentive and also a really been very strong on trying to improve their own impact. So they actually have now got rooftop power solar panels. So in phase 1, they're able to generate 7 to 10% of renewable energy to replace conventional energy in their plant. And in phase 2, they're going to be expanding to 30 to 40% of renewable energy within 5 years. And then at the same time in China and in India, the wastewater effluent actually has to be purified prior to release in any waterways, and sometimes also used for generation of energy. And they use biological methods, so with microorganisms and enzymes to actually clean the water. So I didn't have space for the picture, but you can really see the black water after the processing. It's actually, you know, almost clean enough to drink.
That single tree can help provide the soil quality improvement. It can help re-humidify the area and keep the soil conditions better and prevent erosion, and ultimately keep the quality better for agricultural purposes as well. So it's quite critical for preventing certification. It gives you source food of water, shelter to humans, but also to a lot of animals. And a significant number of species live in the tree or around the tree, whether that's birds, insects, or animals. Again, because the ecosystem will then depend on that cycle, the tree becomes at the center of it. And from carbon perspective, the tree sequestration power is quite significant. Due to the size, due to the age, it actually can sequester much more carbon than acacia tree plantations. And I think that's about sort of 22 ton, which is acacia tree acres. So baobab tree or single tree can actually do even more. So Aduna makes something like this. That's an example of one of their products. And that's actually is baobab powder. So that's one of the sort of project. But what this baobab powder does, essentially, is create income opportunities for the communities where those baobab trees grow. So how do we do that? So the magical recipe of the new innovative model that Aduna has introduced to this market, essentially, is placing value on the baobab fruit. So if there is value on the baobab fruit, those communities who have those trees on their land will actually then be able to do something with it. So they now have incentive and motivation to protect the trees. They have a way to actually get the extra income that they wouldn't be getting otherwise. And they have that opportunity in a very easy way. They don't have to process it. They don't have to do anything with baobab, apart from they have to collect those fruit and hand it over to Aduna, who will buy it from them at a good market, high above the market price. So they get not just the price that they would normally have gotten if they had to travel all the way to whichever town. They get a much better financial deal for it. But the biggest part of this is that Aduna connects these producers from the rural parts of Africa to the global markets.
You know, the complexity is really related to the link between natural resource management and poverty alleviation, and especially where you are operating in rural communities where there are many people living under the poverty line. You have to look for long-term job creation and economic opportunities for the communities, so as to give them incentives and ensure that they're actually not going into the forest to clear. And that's obviously a very challenging issue in the environment we operate. It's obviously very complex, but you know, there are very strong commitments within plantation companies in palm and pulp to try and address these issues head on.
Because we have more impact venture funds, there are more people, more investors that are happy to risk the money and back the sustainable startups. So it becomes easier for entrepreneurs to raise money. And I think it's important and crucial to make the big change because, and the second part is also there is a strong demand from big corporates to ensure that the new innovation, and that's why I think the role of startups is very important, that they can help the big companies to reach the announced targets. Now everyone announced the next 10 years targets for sustainability or for a future of the companies. And I think because the corporates are big and at scale, only by operating and collaborating with the entrepreneurs, it's possible to make it happen in that short timings. So that's a great time for someone who has beautiful ideas around sustainability. Go and raise money, pitch 2 ideas, reach out to me if you have more business idea linked to beauty value chain. I'm happy to help and happy to connect with the different impact funds. Sustainable innovations normally tend to be more disruptive and more inclusive because you require more knowledge and therefore you collaborate more. And as a result, it ends as the better business returns. And that's what we were looking and monitoring inside L'Oréal.